This is part 2 of our video on Introduction to Vectors. We just went through a whole bunch of vocabulary and now we are going to practice using some of it. So for this question, we are going to classify some different vectors. So I have a diagram here. It is an octagon that has a couple of lines drawn inside, and all of the vertices or the corners are labeled with a letter. So what we would like to do is look and see, first of all, to see if we can find vectors that are equal. So according to our vocabulary sheet that we just did, equal vectors have the same magnitude, so the same length, and the same direction. So it gives me the starting vector of AB. So I'm going to look at AB. And what I need to do, that didn't show up very well, is I need to find another vector that has the same length and is going in the same direction. So AB, the way it's stated does matter. It means the vector starts at A and ends at B. So the direction that this is facing is currently to the right. So when I have AB, you'll notice the tiny little arrow over the top is over the B. That's because we're pointing towards the B. So I need another vector that is pointing this same direction and is the same length. Well, there aren't many lines here that are even pointing in this direction. The only one I have is down here at the bottom. So this side here should be the same length as this side up here, and I also need it to point in the same direction. So if we have AB, we always go tail to head when we state our vectors. So this would be vector FE. It starts at F, it ends at E. So I would write F, E, and then you do have a choice. You can draw a full arrow, but I tend to just do a partial arrow where I do the line and then just the top part of the arrowhead. If you want to put the full arrowhead on, you can. It's just a bit of a pain to draw. All right, up next we are looking for two vectors that are opposite. So according to our vocabulary sheet that we just did, opposite vectors have the same magnitude, so the same length, but they point in different directions. So we are starting with GH. That means our vector starts at G and ends at H. So it is pointing this way. It's pointing up. So we're looking for something that is the same length, but the opposite direction. So for the same magnitude and opposite direction, this is going up. I'm looking for something that's going down. And there aren't really many sides that are going down except for this side over here, which is CD, which is conveniently the same length as GH. Now, would we go CD or do we go DC? Well, it has to be the opposite direction. This one is pointing up, so this one has to be pointing down. We always start at the tail and end at the head. So we go from C to D. So this would be the vector CD with an arrow on the top. Okay, up next, we are looking for two vectors that are coincident. So coincident vectors are ones that are on top of each other. So we are starting with AK. So here's A, here's K. So AK is that vector there. So I'm looking for something that would be coincident. So I need a vector that would be on top of this one. Well, if I went further, if I went from A to F, that covers part of AK, so they would be coincident because they are sitting on top of each other. So AK and AF would be coincident. All right, our last one here says two vectors that are parallel but have different magnitudes. So parallel means that they have either the same direction or they're going in opposite directions, and different magnitudes means they are not the same length. So we are starting with AH. AH is this one right here. So I need something that is going either in the same direction or the opposite direction, but is not the same length. So here I cannot pick DE or ED because they would be the same length. They're in the same direction or the opposite direction, but they're the same length. But this one here is definitely a little bit different. So I could either do GB, or I could go the opposite way and go BG. So either they have the same direction, so that would be AH and BG, or opposite direction would be I do AH and GB. I think I might do GB. I'm going to write GB. But I'm also going to put underneath, it could be BG. Either one of those would be okay. Okay, so I will see you in the next video to talk about drawing vectors.